It's Alanea So Chic reporting to you live from the back seat of the family car because my kids are sleeping. Today we are doing the living room built-in. We're starting this project. A project that, you know, I'm slightly confident about. We're gonna see how it goes. Should we be able to pull it off, this is proof that you too, no matter what your background, can do this. I believe we can. So today we are going to start the very beginnings of that process by going out to get IKEA Billy bookcases. Now, you're asking, well, why don't you build it from scratch? Well, because I have kids, one, and two, it's a lot of work. So I said, why do it the hard way? I've seen some folks do it very, very well using Billy bookcases, and IKEA is the master as far as DIY hacks and what have you. And so I will be doing something very similar, using, of course, 2x4 wood supports to create a foundation upon which all of the bookcases will sit. I'll describe that as part of the process as we go throughout the makeover. I've planned everything out, done all my measurements, written down all my cuts, and ready to get started. Oh, and welcome to Alanea So Chic, a place where you're always welcome. This is what the living room looked like before we made any changes. One of the first things we're going to do is build out the base. This is going to be comprised of sturdy 2x4s spanning both the length and width of the space. So the support will go across, aligning with the Billy bookcases, and between the bookcases, wood panels, and an additional support on either side of the Billy bookcases, we'll have our two columns, one on the left and one on the right. In the middle, we'll have 3 IKEA cabinets that will also have shelves, and then we'll have a large panel across the top, closed with trim. And then finally, we'll have our TV that's set up in the middle and affixed to the wall. The first thing I do at the start of any large project, especially in a space where you're not sure how things are going to turn out, is use a laser level, get your measurements, and use painter's tape to match out the actual space on the wall. This is going to give you an idea of what your design or your specific build-in or construction work is going to feel like in the space. It'll give you some more insight into any adjustments you need to make, and then really give you just a good sense of, is this going to work in my space? So we're heading home after a long, long journey of picking up these Billy bookcases for the build-in. And they're in actually pretty good condition, and I saved a lot of money. It's a win-win for all of us. Tip of the day, folks, buy secondhand. My motto with this project was to measure 3 times, cut once, because I've made many mistakes over the past, and we did not want to waste any wood. So even though I had measured this distance across and the width, wanted to make sure I had exactly the correct measurements and nothing had changed, because the first part of the project was cutting the molding. So I use this multi-oscillating tool, a crowbar, and rubber mallet to remove the trim. I kept all of the trim lengthwise in one piece because I'm going to use that same trim across the front of the built-in once it is finished. Got all the wood for the built-in, all of the 2x4s. Now, just gonna get our screws and head out. All right, we're out here in the garage, and it's now time to cut the 2x4s into the specific measurements. So I actually drew up a small scale representation of what I want the built-in to look like. Everywhere I have a little small arrow actually is a very small 2x4 support. So I have to cut all of those, and then we can start putting things together. So plan of action is to cut while the kids are awake, and then when they go down to bed, then I'll go pick up the paint. Probably gonna do 3 different colors of paint. I'll put a picture of the inspo up here on the screen. So, yeah, let's get to cutting. Now that we've got all the pieces cut out, I'm gonna go get paint. When I'm looking at the drawing here, I'm really thinking about having this Stonington gray on the lower cabinets, and then with the gold accents, that'll be really nice. And then the overall wall color and possibly the upper half, I think, of, or even the whole of these, I'm looking at this Balboa mist. So if you look at these two together, it's kind of hard to catch on camera, but I think it's gonna pair well with the wood that I'm choosing, that I'm gonna probably cover the shelves with when we talked about the contact paper. And then of course the TV, I'm gonna frame that as well. So we have the frame TV. And then this color just goes well with these, I think. I'm gonna get some samples. Let's head to the store. Here you'll see me creating the floor platform, essentially what is going to be 2 studs connected together by these short blocks. These blocks are going to align with the Billy bookcases right next to them, because the vertical support, exactly like this, is going to be affixed and secured to both the wall and to this floor base. Success! Serious progress has been made. We have all the platform in now. And essentially what I did, I kind of showed you guys in the video, is started off by just putting together the back and support pieces for each one. I spaced them according to about how wide the IKEA bookcases are. I don't think I'm gonna have enough space to put a support on this side, so I might just have to put the bookcase right up against the wall, because again, this door is here and the wall is hollow. So anyway, and then just nailed or screwed, excuse me, the front, and then affixed it to the wall. You'll see I have put in screws here where the studs are. And then same thing on this side. I did them evenly. The space here is 167 inches, which is really weird. And then finally screwed them together, one on each side, just so it's extra secure and it's not going anywhere. So now we're gonna put the bookcases together and just make sure everything fits and go from there. Ladies and gentlemen, we've run into a dilemma. Like every good DIY project, there's always surprises. And one of the biggest surprises was realizing that the wall on which we're doing the build-in has pretty much all metal studs. So, you know, here I am drilling thinking it's going into something concrete, but it actually was not. So we're headed to Lowe's, just gonna pick up some drywall anchors, some very heavy duty 100-pound ones, just for those places that might, you know, prove a little testy. So we'll use those. I'll get a good amount of them. I just want to make absolutely sure that they're, you know, things are sturdy. also going to get the hardboard for the arch, for the taller bookcases, and then just a few other small things. Take a look at what their trim looks like. But yeah, pivot, pivot, pivot. We're gonna make it work. We're gonna build the 2x4 support in between here. So I really just need to measure about where we want that second support to be. We want to choose about the same spot for all of them. So maybe we go with 2.5 feet, so 30 inches, and we can put it the same for this one. Now that we've measured the specific height of our smaller cabinets, we are going to create our vertical supports in the very same way that we created our base supports, with the exception being that we are going to mark out specifically where the smaller cabinets end and make sure that we align the blocks, directly at that spot. And I'm no electrician, but you definitely should make sure that you measure and cut out spaces for any sockets you have on the wall. Another tip, before you actually secure your shelves, use some items that you intend to put in your cabinets to make sure they're at the right height. You want everything to be secure, and so you'll see here that I'm going to be using some nails and screws to make sure that the shelves are permanently placed so that they do not move. We finally have all the bookcases assembled. Got the shelves in the orientation that I want them in, and you can see some mistakes were made, That's okay, that's part of the project, and we can easily cover it up as long as the integrity is what it should be, and it is. Did run into a major setback with the project in finding that most of the studs in this wall are metal. So there seems to be like one or two, there's wood, but we need this baby to be solid. Like, I do not want these things coming down. So to help mitigate some of the issues, we have some drywall toggle anchors. A lot of these are up to 100 pounds. These are up to 120. So we'll be using these intermittently, at least, of course, at the top and bottom of these, especially these tall ones. We cannot afford to have any issues with the stability of it. So we'll be looking at the wall one more time, marking those things out and affixing them to the wall. As I mentioned earlier, this wall, because of the pocket doors right here, is hollow. So we cannot put anything there. So we really do have to rely on stabilizing to this wall down to the bottom, and then I'm actually going to wood glue onto the wall as much as possible, just for some extra, why not? I mentioned there were still some places that had wood studs, and for those areas that did, I specifically used the stud finder and then marked them out with painter's tape so that I could use them to help affix the vertical support into the wall. Don't forget again to make sure your electrical sockets are not covered, and so that's what you see me doing here. And then as well, this is the other vertical support on the other side, again reinforcing exactly where the studs are into the wall, and then we'll add additional blocks later to make sure that we securely align all of the lower cabinets together. I added a small block in between them, further stabilizing the entire structure. Once you've secured both the bookcases and the cabinets, you want to map out or measure the countertop, if you will, making sure that it is exactly the correct measurement and fits very tight, and then you can affix that or secure that to the bookcases at the appropriate spot. I then add the paneling on all of the sides, making sure that it is as accurate as can be. Some things you'll see here are open, but we are going to close those either with trim and or drywall compound, but you want to make sure that they are very securely attached to your support. This is again reinforcing the entire structure. I also added blocking and supports to the roof because the paneling is going to need something to affix to at the end of it all, and you'll see that very shortly. Once you finish affixing all of your bookcases and your vertical supports, you want to measure again and then cut out your paneling that's going to be affixed to both the roof on the left and the right side above the bookcases. Never just measure once, measure as you go, because things may change. Nothing is going to be absolutely perfect, so you want to make sure that you don't cut too small, but that you cut as close to what the actual measurement needed is. You'll see that I'm getting a little help from my trusty husband here to hold up the paneling and to affix it both to the roof where I've added those supports, to my vertical support, and to the bookcase as well. Again, making everything as sturdy as we can. After I finished the paneling, I measured the outside of the Billy bookcases because I'm going to add 1x2 primed trim. This essentially makes the entire thing look a little bit more finished, a little bit more professional, and just that more aesthetically pleasing. I also added corner trim here and started putting together the doors for the shorter cabinets. I realized I had a gap between the actual platform and where I wanted the molding to be, and so I used leftover primed 1x2 trim in order to bridge that gap before I put on a wood panel that spanned the entire length of the floor. I have two different pieces here, you'll see. I fixed those using my nail gun, and then finally, on top of that, I used that base molding that we saved. Now it's time to put on finishing touches. I used drywall compound to make sure that any holes, any cracks, anything that was visible was cleaned up. And I also used caulking to create a really finished product. And that was in any area that there were gaps in between the cabinets, the shelves, anything. This is what is going to take your project from a beginner level to a little bit more professional. I also used leftover trim to close up the gaps between each of the cabinets as well. Last but not least, you want to sand every surface, especially on Billy bookcases that have a sheen on them, before you paint. It is finally time to paint, and I'm using the Benjamin Moore Kensington Gray, and we'll see how it looks. I'm pretty excited to see this color. All right, so I'm going to use these. I got these a while ago from Hobby Lobby on sale. I'm going to install them just to the right here, using the leveler a little bit just to mark the holes. Using the 1/4 heavy duty drywall toggle anchors because nobody has time for the TV to be falling off of the wall. Is my favorite part, styling. I have some artwork that I placed here, some family photos, a couple of things that I love, a dish that's going to be filled with some beads. I love these beads. You can get them on my store. And then I also have books. A lot of these I like to keep in the same color family. It's going to elevate the look when you're styling, especially for a bookcase or a TV stand. I always love some type of candles. And then, of course, vases. If you have any in your home, you can add those. And this particular artificial olive tree is also going to help elevate the space as well. And various vases I'm styling here. Again, you always want to aim for groups of 3 if you can. Books, some more photos, more books because we love books. And let's take a look at what it looked like before. Complete transformation. I love how everything came together. The colors are fantastic. The lighting creates a mood. The vibes are all there. I'm so happy with how this project turned out. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate every time you watch all of the videos until the end. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you find this content motivational. Make sure you share it with a friend. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate all of you, and I can't wait to share even more makeovers, built-ins, etc. with you.